Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the MedTech Impact Podcast, where you get to hear from leaders and innovators who are shaping the future of medical technology. I'm Kyle Cruz.
And I'm Richard Eaglejohn.
And we're your hosts of the show.
So today on the MedTech Impact Podcast, we are delighted to be joined by John Konsin, CEO and co-founder of Prapela. John, welcome to the show.
Thanks, gents. It's great to be here.
Well, it's great to have you on. We were just recounting some of your background, a common connection with UMass M2D2, and obviously your extended experience in the industry, which I'm sure we can touch on a little bit later. As always, when we kick things off, we want to talk about the big problem being solved. So John, tell us, what is the big problem that Prapela is looking to solve?
Thanks for asking. So many years ago, well, maybe not too many years ago, there was a study that monitored healthy newborns at home. And they used hospital-grade monitoring equipment to understand how these infants breathe and how they develop. And one of the findings of this study, called the CHIME study, which was standing for the Child Home Infant Monitoring Study, found out that 62% of healthy newborns experience pauses in breathing, respiration, and drops in their oxygen saturation levels. 62%. And these incidences, they occur infrequently, yes, but sometimes they'll occur in such a manner that many will occur right in a row. Sometimes there'll be pretty severe drops in oxygenation levels. And it's hard to understand exactly why this is happening, but we do know this is happening. So Prapela is focused on helping babies breathe.
So a high frequency of incidents, and how would you define that breathing interference? How long would it last and what would be the effect on the baby?
Yeah, it's a lot due to the immature levels of an infant brain. So the lower brainstem of babies and humans in general controls breathing, automatic breathing. And due to the immature development of the brain, we believe that it causes some of these disruptions in respiratory patterns and drops in oxygen saturation, which are a result of the poor, irregular breathing patterns that these newborns experience. So that's what we understand it to be related to. And Prapela is addressing how to get automatic breathing more regular into a healthy eupneic rate, as physicians would call it.
And I think they refer to that as central apnea in terms of what you're describing there. For that being diagnosed right now, how would it be diagnosed and how would it be treated?
Yeah, so central apnea is common, especially among preterm newborns. In fact, the earlier a baby is born in terms of gestational age, let's say 32 weeks gestational age, 33 weeks, or even younger, the higher the frequency they have of apnea prematurity. It usually resolves itself over time, over a period of months, sometimes even weeks. The apneic episodes go away. So it is something that hospitals are concerned about because, again, it accompanies a drop in oxygen saturation levels, which is never good for neurological development, nor is it good for organ development. So what hospitals do is they actually give the first course of action in many cases is they wake up infants that are experiencing these lapses in breathing while they're sleeping, these apneic episodes. And if they have frequent apneic episodes, hospitals actually administer them caffeine.
Caffeine, not even a device, but a drug in a way.
That's correct. Caffeine is the only approved drug therapy by the FDA to treat apnea prematurity. Unfortunately, a lot of times the dosing that the FDA recommends is superseded or exceeded at many institutions. And this is pretty common knowledge throughout the world.
Wow. That's fascinating because as Richard, as you were asking the question on, well, essentially how is this treated today? You think of sleep apnea masks, but then, well, how would a baby and an infant wear something like that? And what are the challenges around that? I mean, geez, gosh, I could think of choking and strangling and all sorts of horrific events that could happen. But yeah, you think also this whole industry in general, when it comes to, pediatric innovation and how challenging it is to bring technologies to market to treat these infants, it's not easy. And rightfully so, because one, these infants, they're so precious, and two, there's not many parents out there that are like, yeah, try it out on my brand new newborn child, and let's see how it works.
Yeah.
So this is fascinating. So right now we've got caffeine as the primary way of
Standard of
treating.
care. Hmm.
Standard of care, caffeine, the standard of care. So I think that tees us up nicely here, John. So what is Prapela doing now to help solve these problems and address these breathing and apnea challenges with these pediatric infants?
So as far back as 1995, Dr. David Pedafar theorized that a gentle random vibration can actually stimulate the neurons that control automatic breathing in newborns. And in 1997, he actually did an experiment with one infant. Of course, he had hospital approval to do this, and found that indeed that applying a very gentle random vibration to an infant actually improved their breathing. And specifically, it reduced apneic episodes and it reduced these oxygen desaturation events. So that's when our technology was first discovered all the way back in 1995 and proven for the first time in 1997.
So you mean to tell me that you can create some sort of vibration, and is that vibration happening, say, on a vein, artery, a nerve? Where is that vibration taking place?
Yeah, you'll love this. It's really simple. The vibration is being transmitted through a specially manufactured devised mattress, a sleep surface that every baby needs to sleep on a mattress, right? So what
Sure.
Propel done is we've developed a stochastic or random stimulation embedded in a mattress. You put your baby down on the mattress and it actually improves breathing. But I do want to impress that this is not just a simple vibration, right? This is a vibration that took, a lot of work effort to develop. It's very precise. It moves up and down less than half the diameter of a human hair at a speed that's really set to be sensitive and responsive to mechanoreceptors within the human body. Mechanoreceptors are basically throughout your body that pick up on sensations and send signals to your brain. So when you touch something, those are mechanoreceptors at work telling you that you're touching something. And they exist around your diaphragm and lungs as well. They're internal and external. So this continuous loop of what you feel and how you're breathing and the messages it sends to the brain and the regulation from your brain from those signals is really part and parcel and really key to our technology.
Wow, it's incredible, this technology. And the fact that this has been around for so long, it's in terms of the history and how this came. I'm guessing, as we spoke about and mentioned your experience, John, you haven't personally maybe been working on this for 30 years. So, what drew you into this technology? What got you so passionate about wanting to use this particular solution?
All right. So how did I get involved? Well, it was all the way back in, let's see, I got to put the year here on this right. It was in 2016. I was actually doing some consulting work with Harvard's Wyss Institute, and they introduced this technology to me, explaining all the clinical studies they had done with it, and wanted my advice on, well, how do we get this to market? Because we can't get any big company interested.
That's so cool. I think it's amazing how these things organically take place, and obviously you've become very attached to this product. But I'm also hearing that even though it's really data driven, there seems like there's a nice simplicity to the application. As you said before, this mattress is something that every baby will need. Every baby will sleep on a mattress. And so I guess the other part of like how you're taking this to market is the idea being that this would fit into any standard cot, or does it have to have any other types of customizations?
So no, actually, you'll love this. It's a mattress that basically you plug it into the wall and you press one button and you walk away. There's no adjustments necessary. There's no dials. There's no really fiddle factor at all. This gentle vibration embedded in the mattress boosts those neurons that control automatic breathing. And by doing so, as I said, you get better breathing out of infants. Initially, what we're going to do is we're going to help infants that are in hospitals. What we want to do is we want to impress upon clinicians and parents who have children in hospitals, newborns, obviously, that need additional care to become familiar with the technology in a clinically oriented setting where they basically learn to trust the device and what it does.
And what's interesting too is like, you've got this product, but really what it sounds like is you've created this software, this algorithm, right? That's got to be the proprietary side of this, where ultimately then you can leverage that technology. And I mean, you might be able to use it in other cases, but for now, it's just fascinating. What was it, I guess, about that pediatric market, and why did you go after the pediatric market in the first place?
Well, it really goes back all the way to the origins of Dr. Pedofar's work in 1995 and 1997, where he understood that, hey, we've got an immature infant brain here. The lower brainstem is not fully developed.
Mhm.
Therefore, we've got poor breathing. And this stimulation actually works on that immature brain. So we haven't tested it on more mature brains. In fact, we don't think it will work on adults because we get asked that quite a bit.
Oh,
Um,
yeah, I was gonna
but
say,
from day one,
is there any way to create a mattress for adults, right? Where now they don't
right.
have to wear the mask. Now that would be a billion-dollar idea right there. But if the
Yeah. And the type of apnea that we experience as adults is not what they call central apnea, which is neurologically based. It's obstructive apnea. And
Okay.
while some newborns do have obstructive apnea, it's typically much more central apnea is what they suffer from. So it directly addresses what they're going through as they're developing as human beings, not something for more developed adults.
And I also really like this again because it's non-invasive, and there's just very little risk, it seems like, right? As an outsider, that's something that I think more people are open to trying, right? Oh, it's a vibration device that could help solve, this apnea problem with my infant. Yeah, let's try that. Happy to, rather than, hey, let's insert this breathing tube down their throat that's intended for an older person and not a child, or what have you, where there's more complications. So maybe that would be something to talk about, is kind of that development and approval pathway for
Sure.
Prapela.
Yeah. And Kyle, I do want to go back.
Yeah,
We talked about caffeine, right? That is the first line of treatment for apnea prematurity to basically prevent apneic episodes from happening. Infants, preterm infants, newborns that do have trouble breathing for other reasons, they will be administered supplemental oxygen through a variety of different devices. That's typically not a treatment for apnea prematurity because, again, it's a neurological condition. However, I don't want anybody to think that newborns can't receive supplemental oxygen in hospitals, and sometimes, often they
sure.
do to avoid oxygen desaturation events. It's very difficult. It's tedious. Uh, the administration is intense, so it's a lot of hands-on work with those infants that are going through those kinds of difficulties that require that kind of care. But nonetheless, we'll go back to, hey, all right, what's this path from a regulatory standpoint? So there's never been a mattress vibration, if you will, that improves breathing ever. Um, so to get FDA clearance for this for a medical indication, apnea prematurity, we discovered that what we needed to do was actually pursue clearance through the de novo pathway. The de novo pathway means from the new. So there is no predicate device. And as a result, we have to provide the data that the FDA requires in order to make sure that they feel it's both safe and efficacious for use among newborns.
And because it's you, John, and this is absolutely fascinating. So just, incredible work you're doing here. But it makes me wonder, because it's you, is that something that then could be a challenge for reimbursement, or can you tap into existing codes? How does that work?
Yeah, yeah. So answer that. I do want to add to one more thing to what we just discussed. Okay. So we've done clinical trials, and part of the reason the big companies didn't jump on it, when Harvard introduced me to it, and they asked the question, well, we can't get a big company to do this. Well, they saw that, hey, this was probably going to be a difficult regulatory pathway. Do we want to assume this risk? Let's have some other company do it, make sure it's ready, right? And then we'll take it on. And that's what we've been doing. We've been doing the clinical studies to support the evaluation by the FDA under the de novo pathway. I'm delighted to say, back to Kyle's point, that the studies that we've done have been done under a non-significant risk determination. What does that mean? That means hospitals, when they review the technology and they say, we want to do this study, they agree, hey, this is very unlikely to be harmful to the infant, so we'll do this study, as opposed to going to the FDA and filling out and completing a lot of lengthy process through the IDE, a device exemption, in order to go ahead with the clinical study. So we're proud to say that every time we've done a study with our technology, every hospital has deemed it to be a non-significant risk, which we're really excited about. And now maybe talk about reimbursement, but I'll pause there for a second if you had any follow-up questions on that.
No, I mean, honestly, I mean, I think that's fascinating. And I think it's great to hear that you're getting these results. And clearly there's big potential for somebody further down the chain to obviously want to acquire this technology, which again is really exciting. And clearly there's value being provided by what you're doing here. So, you know, I'm just looking at some of the numbers in one of the papers you'd shared around the cost to hospital systems around treating babies who are suffering from the effects of this, particularly when it's related to opioids. I think that's been a focus area for you.
Right.
So maybe you can talk a little bit about some of the economics related to that.
Sure. So I'll go back to reimbursement, and then we'll go into that in a little bit more detail. So, you know, every medical device, when it's introduced in the market, you know, the analyst and prospective investors will always ask, as they should, as part of their due diligence, will tell us about coding, coverage, and reimbursement, right? Because you can't get paid for a device that you're going to sell unless you typically have coding, coverage, and reimbursement established through commercial payers and through the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services, which is CMS, right? Well, our device is a mattress. It's a hospital supply item. Hospital supply items are purchased by hospitals as supply items. So they don't go through a coding, coverage, and reimbursement pathway. So unlike a lot of startups that are introducing new technology, we're not waiting for, don't have to wait for coding, coverage, and payment decisions by CMS or commercial insurance. Hospitals can start buying our device as part of their hospital supply purchases right away, as soon as we get clearance. So we're excited about that. That's a big hurdle that we literally sidestep because of what our device is.
So then that really helps with your market access. So then maybe you can talk about, again, some of the economic benefits we were mentioning there before, because, you know, clearly there's maybe an extra cost to a mattress like this, but equally there's going to be a potential huge saving for a hospital by having this type of equipment.
Yeah. So we initially started out by talking about apnea prematurity, another indication for the devices to actually help newborns who were prenatally exposed to opioids. So what do we mean by prenatally exposed to opioids? It means that, you know, mom during pregnancy either was prescribed opioids or she unfortunately may have been taking illicit opioids. And as a result of that, the opioids are transferred to the infant. And at birth, with the basically cessation of the, you know, the cutting of the umbilical cord, right? There's no longer that connection to mom, and the infant starts to experience withdrawal. And the indication is called neonatal opioid withdrawal syndrome, or NOWS. And thanks to some incredible work by Elizabeth Block-Salisbury, who worked closely with Dr. Petafar, and then later branched out on her own, she did some amazing work to find out that the same mattress, the same setting, actually has a very positive effect on infants' experience withdrawal. A recent study that she published that included over 181 infants showed that infants actually that were exposed to our mattress within 24 hours after birth were less likely to require morphine to help them ease through their withdrawal symptoms. And we're very excited about that finding and that application of our technology.
Are you able to combine, or are you looking for multiple indications then right now, or are you leading with apnea, and then once you achieve that indication, you would go back and, you know, focus on opioid?
Great question, Kyle. In fact, it's the opposite. Thanks to the National Institute on Drug Abuse, they took a real strong interest in our technology and the early findings for opioid exposed babies in the 2019 and 2020 timeframe. And we received grants to do clinical research with them. And we're further along on our clinical findings with opioid exposed newborns than we are with infants with apnea prematurity. So our first indication will be to help those opioid exposed newborns. Then we'll do a follow-on indication, a second one for apnea prematurity. And then we see a third application after that for intermittent hypoxemia, which is low blood oxygen levels not related to apnea prematurity, which is also very common in newborns.
Is there ever so jaundice? What about jaundice? Is there any correlation to also what you're solving?
No, we haven't seen any impact on jaundice. As you know,
Okay.
jaundice is typically, impacted with phototherapy, and that's worked
Right.
really, really well. There's some great products out there that attack that issue. But
Well, that's what I'm
we're
thinking of because, and sorry to interrupt, John. The only
no,
reason
go.
why I ask, right, is because I was just trying to, I'm just like probably most people in the audience right now. We're this isn't as clear to us, but I would just be curious if there was some sort of relation between the two, where it's like, oh, typically babies that are impacted by opioids or whatever might experience more jaundice. And to your point, yeah, there is. There's the Neolite. They're a small company out of Arizona, and it's just so interesting because it's like, wow, yeah, and we'll get into go-to-market strategy in just a bit, right? But is there opportunity for collaboration with other similar technologies where, hey, they're using this light bed for a short amount of time, but imagine if that light bed can also vibrate, right?
Right.
And help in those areas, right? So, that's just the marketing brain going here, and but it's just, hey, it's really cool, and I'm so glad we cleared that up actually. Because here we are talking about sleep apnea,
Yeah, yeah.
right? But really, your first indication will be for opioid. So,
Yeah, and to be clear, infants who go through opioid withdrawal, they have rapid breathing, racing heart rates, right? I mean, they're going through withdrawal, and so the mattress actually helps regulate breathing for those infants as well. What's amazing with the technology is doesn't matter if the baby's breathing too slow or too fast. It helps regulate their breathing rhythmically. And when babies breathe more rhythmically, they relax more. And this is part of the evidence that we've seen and talked about as it relates to helping opioid exposed newborns. So we're really excited because those babies and those moms and the caregivers of those babies, they deserve a break. It's very, very difficult to console these infants. And by putting them down on a bed that can help them a little bit more than just holding or frequent skin-to-skin contact or breastfeeding. Those are all the things that absolutely need to be done with these infants. When mom gets tired or caregivers get tired, to put them down on a mattress that they know is still helping them while just laying there is really terrific, really exciting.
that is incredible. And Richard, I want to dig in more on the go-to-market strategy because, John, I know you mentioned, that here you are. And Richard, I find this fascinating because think about it, Richard. How many times have we had folks on the show that kind of are getting this, FDA or going for the de novo FDA approval, but then bypassing reimbursement, going right to the hospital where it's still not even like a consumer technology either, So that's fascinating to me.
All right.
Oh yeah.
Ready to dive into go to market?
Oh, absolutely. We'd love to. Again, I just think this, you've touched on the approach, but again, just reading about the numbers involved. I mean, I just can't believe the astronomical cost. And I think the paper I looked at was referring to data from between 2009, 2012, and the cost to hospitals had doubled to nearly like 1.5 billion. So I can only imagine what it could be now. So again, significant problem. How are you getting this to the hospitals to help solve that challenge?
Yeah, so I like to go vision first, right? Okay, so we talked at the top of the podcast about how 62% of healthy infants, not even ones in hospitals, experience, episodes of irregular breathing, right? Where they're having oxygen desaturation events as a result of their irregular breathing patterns. And again, the number of episodes they have varies, the frequency, the severity also varies quite a bit. Some babies only have one that lasts for a long time and our oxygen saturation drops really low. Sometimes they have multiple ones that are really not harmful in terms of oxygen desaturation events. So it's all over the map. So 62% of babies, and this isn't just US babies, this is globally, right? So why can't this be the preferred, most loved, beloved infant mattress for every newborn in the world? So how do you make a mattress that's unique, available everywhere in the world? Well, you could try and do it as one company, but there's so many cultural differences and there's so many different market differences around the world as it relates to newborn products, as well as how hospitals take care of newborns. So we've got to partner, and we've got to partner with who? The companies that make bassinets, that make cots, that make incubators.
Hmm.
So our strategy long term is Prapela inside. Just like Intel is inside every computer, or most every computer, right? We want Prapela, the mattress, to be inside or available through every manufacturer of infant sleep devices.
Hmm.
So
Now,
stop. That's the
yeah,
vision.
well then, because if I'm the hospital, right, and I'm looking at this and I can say, well, I can spend more money on this mattress,
Yeah.
or I can just buy some more caffeine that costs a lot less and it's already approved to solve this problem. I'm just going to go with the caffeine and just buy the simple crappy mattresses that are going to, come and go,
Yeah.
like so how do you justify that with the hospital? How do you really kind of make them see that value?
Yeah. So let's start with our first indication, and it is, opioid exposed newborns. So
Yeah.
data coming out of um, Elizabeth Block Salisbury study, as well as a recent study that will soon be published out of Tufts that had 5 other hospitals contributing to that study, indicate that infants, when they're on this mattress shortly after birth, during their hospital stay, will actually be out of the hospital one day sooner, which is pretty remarkable because the
Sure.
cost of one day in a hospital is astronomical.
Yeah.
Now, this mattress is not single use for a baby. This is reusable. So this mattress could save 20, 30, 40 days of infant stays per year. I mean, multiply that by a conservative number of, let's say, $2,000, which is really inexpensive. You're talking $80 to $100,000 one mattress can save um, in terms of hospital costs. So, so we're going to sell it for $100,000. No, no, we're not. So we're going to sell it for obviously less than that. And we'll be able to demonstrate to hospitals that, according to these 2 studies, hospital babies will require less care, be in the hospital for shorter amount of days, and it will actually end up saving the healthcare system quite a bit. And let's not forget, as it relates to opioid exposed newborns, these babies are frantic. They're constantly crying. They need to be soothed and cared for. And a lot of times that's provided by mom, that's provided by caregivers, or some hospitals use volunteers. And if they can have one more device that actually kind of reduce the risk from the baby being handled to all these individuals, right? And just, be with mom and caregiver per se, and then just rest comfortably on a mattress, it's going to have huge appeal. It'll be the first device ever, medical device ever approved for the treatment of opioid exposed newborns.
That is huge. And it's such a great, strong business case. I'm glad you were asking that question, Carl, because I really wanted to know, and you explained it so well, John. And really clear that you have this marketing background, the way you're thinking about things in terms of the vision, the channel partners, and the value add. And I'm kind of wondering now about so obviously you're targeting the hospitals, but the value being again in this early day release, what happens post-release? Is there an opportunity that this helps in terms of reducing readmissions if you could take that mattress with you?
Yeah, there is that opportunity, right? And as soon as you have a device that is used in the hospital and then goes home with baby, it becomes what's called a piece of durable medical equipment. And once you enter that realm, you're dealing with an entirely different situation as it relates to reimbursement. And there you get into not quite coding coverage reimbursement, but you get into DME reimbursement. And DME, unfortunately, in this country is kind of a mess. People don't always know what their out of pocket is. They don't know what their Insurance is going to cover. It's not like pharmaceuticals where you know when you go to the pharmacy how much you're going to have to pay out of pocket. With DME, sometimes people get surprise bills afterwards. So we're going to look at that, but we're going to look at it carefully and judiciously. There may be some programs that hospitals will be able to offer the patients upon discharge. Um, but right now, we see a great opportunity to make this a standard of care for every opioid exposed newborn in the United States, and then eventually every preterm infant in the United States cared for in neonatal intensive care units.
That makes total sense, but it just point to the picture of the huge potential value over time, because you don't think about how concerning it can be at any time when a baby stops breathing. The fact that you could have this mattress at home in future, I think is a potential huge market, but clearly something for the future. So what lies ahead? So you have got this great potential. You're clearly making some great progress. Looking ahead, say the next 12 to 18 months, what's in front of you?
Yeah, what's in front of us is the most significant barrier to any new novel technology that the world hasn't seen before, and that is gaining acceptance by the FDA under the de novo pathway that I mentioned. We have submitted our application. It was well over 3,000 pages with extensive clinical data supporting it, and it's under review with the FDA right now, pending their approval. Once we have FDA clearance through the de novo pathway, we'll start selling actively to hospitals to help improve treatment of opioid exposed newborns. One other thing that you just might find fascinating, I did. So, we've seen movies over the years and been into hospitals, and you see, parents and loved ones going up to see a newborn, and they have all the babies in the nursery, right? And there's maybe 10 or 15 of them. And what are they laying in? They're laying in these clear kind of bassinet tubs, right? Well, thankfully, about 80% of all the bassinets in the United States are the same size, right? So we can make one mattress that takes care of at least 80%, perhaps 90% of all the bassinets that are used in hospitals across the United States. So we're really excited to see, how it gets adopted into and used in hospitals. So it's going to be an exciting, a time for us getting into hospitals, getting acceptance going, and then having parents react to use of the bassinet while their baby's in the care of the hospital.
And do you think there could be a licensing play then with like already a well-known established baby mattress company out there that's already selling to hospitals already where they
Yes.
would want to integrate? Is that really is that the play there?
Yeah, and it's not just, bassinet companies and incubator companies. Certainly those are, great potential partners for us that have
Yeah.
established distribution. Um, but it's also companies that are, in the newborn nursery, companies that have products that they sell into neonatology. Um, we're finally getting, the problem that Harvard had back in 2016, 17 when they approached me is now evaporating. We are getting inquiries, and we're excited about that because we've let it known. The company said, look, we want to partner on distribution. We want to be Prapela inside, and we're looking for partners to help us achieve that, and it's starting to happen. So we're working towards that. So hopefully we'll have everything lined up, ready to go after we get FDA go ahead to get out in the market.
So John, yeah, that story you told was amazing. I love that imaging you're talking about, how that standardization is so critical, because everything about trying to bring a new medical technology to market is all about going from a bit of idea, a bit of chaos, through to this idea or concept of wanting to make it the standard of care. And so the way you told that story was amazing. What could people be doing to help you? You mentioned their partners, in terms of people getting in touch. What would be your asks? Are you fundraising? Is there anything else?
Yeah. So just to add one more little ad there in terms of standardization. One of the brilliant things that has been done with the clinical studies is they've also asked, as part of the clinical studies, acceptance of the device by the nursing care team as well as parents. And the responses have been overwhelmingly supportive of both caregivers and parents for use of the device, saying that they loved it, they would use it again. We get a lot of parents asking, "Can I take it home with me?" etc. So we're excited about, eventually getting that message out through hospitals and perhaps coming out with a consumer product with different claims, of course, not as a medical device, but nonetheless the same underlying technology to help babies at home, which is a big opportunity for us. You know, what do I want? I want people to be thinking about us, wishing us the best through the FDA process, right? And thinking all that positive energy so that we are successful with the FDA, who've been terrific. And then if they know of any hospitals that are caring for opioid exposed newborns or any clinics, we'd love to talk to them. And in parents too that have recently had one of their infants graduate from the NICU. We'd love to hear from them about their experiences, about how their baby was treated, what they felt about the care they received, and how acceptable they would find our technology to be. We think they'd love it. But those kinds of conversations, we love having them all the time.
And what an opportunity too for a hospital to be able to even market, that type of new innovative way to treat, infants potentially born with opioid challenges, that you're helping solve. Where it's all the more reason to maybe, have your child at a certain hospital or a certain location because of that. So really remarkable, John. How do folks get in touch with you if they want to reach out?
So the easiest way is our website is www.prapela, Prapela, Prapela.com. Real simple. You can subscribe to our newsletter on that. You can ask questions through our website. And depending on, what you're asking and what you need to know, we'll review those and get back to you. And if there's a dialogue that needs to occur more frequently, we're happy to, exchange emails with folks and talk to them and learn. So it's all about learning and trying to make our technology better every day. And really, when you really get down to it, helping babies and their caregivers.
Heck yeah. And can they connect with you on LinkedIn too? Are you there at all?
Yeah, I'm on LinkedIn. Absolutely. Yeah.
Cool.
And Prapela's on LinkedIn. We don't have a huge social media presence now. We are on Facebook. We are on Instagram. But we're a small outfit, and we're just focused on first things first, and that's working with the FDA to get this thing ready for market.
Well, John, it's been incredible getting to hear the story, and incredible just the mission of what you're doing with Prapela. I'm sure everyone will be able to get behind this. Obviously, wishing you well and excited to have you on again in the near future to hear about the progress I'm sure you're going to be making.
Thanks, guys.
Ladies and gentlemen, another huge thank you to our guest, John Konsin, co-founder and CEO of Prapela. And thank you for tuning in to another episode of the MedTech Impact Podcast. I'm Kyle Cruz.
And I'm Richard Beaglejohn. Until next time, keep innovating.